Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. I hope everyone is having a great Friday, last Friday of 2024 here. And we look like we're starting off to the downside. It did look like yesterday, I will say, it looked like for a while we were going to get a little bit of a melt up as opposed to, um, we definitely didn't see the Santa Claus rally by any means, right? And what we actually saw was ended up being a little bit of a fade out towards the end of the day, pushed us back down here. We maxed out right around noon yesterday, and then just quickly, retraced out. So let's take a look at the indices here, or the things we look at to start off our day. Bitcoin back at 96,319. Pretty volatile day yesterday. We know it had made a run early in the morning or overnight, Wednesday into Thursday, up towards 100,000. Didn't quite make it there. Yesterday dropped down as low as 94,750, but has bounced back up. Really sticking pretty close to the 50-day MA here. Still in a pretty good zone, so we'll see what we get here today. The question is, will we retrace this 91,812 that was the big support here on 4 or 5 other occasions before we get our next move to the upside? Or are we going to start to see this 50-day MA give us a little bit, along with the bottom of the daily linear regression, a little bit of a move to the upside? So we'll be keeping an eye on that. Gold pretty flat, hasn't really done all that much, right back at that 2600 handle. Um, yeah, I mean just fairly flat here over the last 4 or 5 days. I think going back to like last Friday, really not a lot of movement on gold. Same thing, silver pegged still under 30 here, hasn't been able to get back above 30 and holds here. Nat gas took another jump up here back at 372. So again, if you were listening to us back in mid-December when it was at $3, we were telling you to buy. It made a nice run up to 380. And looks like it might want to make another run to the upside. If we look overseas, we are seeing, well, we are not getting a Santa Claus rally. We have seen a little bit of that come here in Europe as the stocks is seeing 3 straight days of increases, up another, quarter of a point today. Shanghai index again, same thing. Pretty much this whole week has been moving to the upside. So, and the Nikkei took a real nice jump up. They are seeing a Santa Claus rally a little bit in Japan. So we are seeing, different markets reacting differently here. We have seen, the dollar has been rising. Let's start with Treasury yields, I guess, and go from there. 30-year has come back down below 4.8, but still pretty, elevated. I think we've, firmly sort of priced in the fact or figured out the fact that, um, that we under the, I have little notes here. I just want to grab them here. What we're finding here in treasuries, in my opinion, is that concerns about inflation maybe being a little stickier, along with some of these tariff policy agenda, has yields climbing a little bit, and they've climbed basically since they announced, back here in September when they come to the bottom here, when in September they did the 50-point basis cut, and we saw us drop down to 3.9. Since that point, we've really been on a big increase up. We took a little bit of a hiatus as the election hit and thought maybe that we would continue to see Fed cuts, but as it looks now, higher for longer seems to be the mode. So we see it across the 37 4.79. We see it across the 10-year here at 4.599. Has again come down a little bit from its highs of 4.739, but still quite elevated. And again, if we look back, since September, we've been on this upward trajectory. So with that being said, DXY also still catching a bid here, almost at 108. It has pulled back down a little bit here, so question is this battle at 108 we know is a psychological resistance for it and support usually. So we'll see what happens here as that comes through. Not a heck of a lot of other movement in currencies that I was really looking at. You've got the euro still at that 104 area, so it has bounced back up again. They are seeing a little bit of a move back up here. And we have seen the sterling, after bottoming out, move up nicely today back to that 125 level. But on the other side of that, we're at 157.75, so we continue to see the dollar advance versus the yen. We also continue to see it advance versus the Mexican dollar here, and you can see the way that we bounced off that $20 rate up to $28.30. When we look at the sectors across the different industries, XLE, which is energy right now, is looking to open maybe a little bit north here, but again, this is a sector that's been beaten up here for most of the last month or so, as you can see. Does look like it wants to bounce off of this support. So XLE is a little interesting here, but that's moving to the upside. XLU, which is the utility sector, you can see again after retracing here for the last couple of weeks, is trying to catch a bottom, it looks like. XLK, which is technology, down about a half a point here today. We know yesterday this was one of the few that was green on the day. Tech. XLB, which is going to be the banks. No, materials, excuse me. Down about 85.40 here. It does look like XLY getting hit the hardest here, down about 0.54%, back down at 232.60 here. And again, that's consumer discretionary. I do have some numbers here, I believe, from holiday spending, so we should take a look and talk a little bit about that. Spending for the holidays did rise this year, so that's good to see. Consumers spent more than they did last year. It revealed a consumer who's willing and able to spend, but driven by a search for value. And we saw that by concentrated e-commerce spending during the biggest promotional periods, said the chief economist at MasterCard Economics Institute. I like looking at the credit card companies for getting some data, because this is just true data. They don't really have a care about whether it was bought at Kohl's, Amazon, anywhere. They just track these numbers. And again, they said total spending for the holiday shopping period that ran from November 1st through December 24th rose 3.8% from last year when you exclude automobiles, compared to the 3.1% increase a year ago. So, a 2-year, almost 8% raise there. So it's nice to see. And it says here that you do see the Spider S&P Retail ETF rose about 1.4% on Thursday based upon this news. And they have a prominent component share of Amazon, Walmart, Costco in that. So it also did say that they saw growth in online shopping, improved about 6.7% up from the annual holiday spend gain of 6.3% a year before. So again, we're seeing comparable numbers in 2024 that we saw in 2023 in terms to the increase to the prior year. So not a big move up, but nicely holding that 6.7, 6.3% growth off of good numbers in the busiest part of your year. To me, that's a good sign. When I used to be back in the liquor distribution side, if October, November, December grew at 6 or 7%, it meant that our year was going to be a solid year all around, since, again, liquor, sort of like everything else, gets most of its buying in October, November, December. One thing I did think that was interesting is it does look like some of us were last minute shoppers that were holding out maybe for a last minute discount. And what they said is they saw about 10% of the total holiday spend was done during the last few days of the year, the last 5 days of the holiday period. And I don't know, that didn't really give you whether or not that was comparable to what we saw in prior years, but I just think it was interesting about that 10% number. It's one now I think I have in my mind, and I'll remember next year to see how that does equate across the board. They did point out that they saw consumers motivated by deals and retailers responded with promotions to meet that demand. And we saw that, right? I mean, between Amazon and Target and Walmart, on your e-commerce side, just everywhere there were deals to be found, and there were your Black Friday deal, your Cyber Monday deal, again, your Target Circle deal, is your Walmart Plus deals, and they all came in at different times throughout the year. And it does, what I noticed also was while these are good numbers, we saw a bigger growth on the front end. Black Friday and, Amazon's Prime Day deal, along with, hey, Zora, how you doing? And Walmart's deal days and all that drove a lot of the holiday business shopping to earlier in the year or earlier in the season. But overall, again, a positive year it looks like for retailers, with the key being that while consumers seem to be willing to spend money, they were more aggressive in shopping for deals. And that the retailers use that as a tool. So, I was surprised. Electronic sales were only up 3.7%. I thought that we might see a jump with that, especially over the last week or so, with the fears of tariffs coming and stuff. We know electronics are one of the ones that will get hit. Another one that was positive, but this one wasn't as positive as last year, is restaurants did see growth of about 6.3% this year versus last year. And I will say, people I talked to in the industry, a lot of my friends still in the restaurant industry, I was out a decent amount during the holidays. It did look busier, but again, I definitely heard the trend of trade down a lot, where there was more business at that mid-level tier. I'd call it your Texas Roadhouse, your Cheesecake Factory, maybe a little bit of a step down for your affluent consumer, and maybe a little bit of a step up for your normal everyday consumer because of the holidays. So I do think that we saw still that everyday consumer step up and get a little bit of a better meal for the holidays, go out with family, friends at better places. But I do think that we saw also the upper end of that, buyer come down a little bit to the market a little bit and shop at cheaper places like we saw. We heard Costco talk a lot about the fact that they're seeing a more affluent customer. There's more demand there for luxury goods that they never really had, that they're now selling out of all the time when they have like Wagyu beef. They had caviar during the holidays they spoke about, and, crab legs and all these things. I will say I haven't done it in years. I used to get the crab legs at Costco back in the day. They always had good deals around the holiday on like crab. They would do like a seafood market, and they'd come in for like one weekend and just crush it and move from city to city. So that's what we're seeing so far. If we don't see a little jump here this morning, I would definitely say Santa Claus rally is, out. Unfortunately, maybe does it come next week going into the new year? I don't know. I will say liquidity was real light yesterday. There isn't a ton of volume out there. We did see one good spike, but you can see volume still down. Volume wasn't much higher yesterday than it was on Christmas Eve, which is a day that we closed at 1 o'clock. And I'm talking about QQQ here when I'm looking at this. But volume yesterday, very similar to what we saw on Christmas Eve. And, these are pretty low volumes. You can see, where we normally fall here. So we'll see if we get some volume pickup. I'm not expecting it. I do think today is going to be a slow day in the markets. It is quad witching, well, not quad witching day, but it's end of the year, last options of the year. We'll see how that plays out. I haven't seen a lot of articles about a huge amount of expirations, so it leads me to believe that there isn't there. So, both SPY and QQ right now down about a half a percentage point Say it's similar to what we saw yesterday morning, right? If I look yesterday, we had that big drop right at 750 or so. And similar, today we've more melted down. Yesterday we took the elevator down and then tried to work our way back up throughout most of the day. Today, now since about 7 o'clock this morning, we've just sort of been taking the steps down. So, not expecting a whole bunch out of the markets today. Liquidity is low, so beware, be careful out there. Bitcoin sort of stabilized too, not doing a heck of a lot. And you can see it across most of the markets. Again, gold sitting right at, that same 26, 25 area that it's been in, since Friday, December 20th. We've been pretty range bound here on gold. Silver, same thing, has been pretty much locked in right around that 30, just under $30 here for the last 5 or 6 days. Nat gas is jumping up still, so nat gas is still moving up. Again, we were telling you to buy that a couple of weeks ago when it was $3. Big Beat was big on getting in that at that price. So, there. Across crypto in general, we're seeing a little bit of a green day across the board. And again, to me, things look pretty good. Not nothing to be worried about. It's just doing its thing. We're seeing some. We have a positive day, and what's still sort of not alarming, but what still leads me to believe when definitely not in alt season yet is that the alts are rising, and there's no picking of individual alts right now. What we're seeing is there'll be a good day like today, everything will be up 3, 4, 5, 6%, and then tomorrow we'll give back that. And you can see it here across most of them. Again, if you look here, I just randomly pulled out Tron, don't ask me why, but TRX is trading pretty much at the same level it was December 19th. It hasn't done a lot here. The alts really haven't done a ton. They've done a little bit of volatility, but again, if you look, we're right back where we were the 20th. So we spent pretty much the last 10 days of the year just sort of giving us a little bit of volatility range, but in a pretty tight range here for crypto, as we know. And that's across a lot of them. I will say I do think Solana is still a deal hit down here. I liked it better at 180 than I do at 190. But again, Solana will come in, when it's ready to break an all-time high. You're looking at a nice increase here, 190 to 265, Nice there, Zora. Okay. There you go. See, yep. Absolutely. When it does that, that's a good idea. But Solana's one I'd be looking maybe here. Might dabble in over the next week or so here. We'll see how the markets play out through the end of the year. But I'm looking here maybe at picking up a little bit of Solana. Not much else I really eyeing. I was trying to see if there's anything else I was really sort of eyeing there in the crypto side. Not really. And again, chips pretty much, yesterday everything started up on fire. But if you look, Nvidia, which was up almost 2%, I believe, when we, were talking yesterday, ended up down a quarter of a point. TSM that was up yesterday ended up down 1.58. AVGO, Broadcom continues to gain market share there. ASML gave up a half a point yesterday, trying to regain it here today. AMD getting hit kind of hard here, down almost a point yesterday, another half a point. We are getting to the point for me where some of these semis start to get interesting also. I do think we still have a little bit of downside in the markets overall. I don't think we're quite out of the woods yet. I think this week and next week, again, you're going to have light trading. So, that could lead, if there's any kind, what you tend to see is institutions right now, they're pulling out of the market. If they have a good position, if you are a hedge fund and you've been in, I don't know, MicroStrategy and it's up 400%, now is the next couple of days are when they tend to take some profits off because they show those profits to their clients at the end of the year, and it makes it, them look good. So it's sometimes those are the things they want to, not have unrealized profits, but actually show some profits that are realized in there. And then what we will see, though, is starting, and Steve Flanagan warned us a little bit about that, that what we could see is starting next Thursday, is right? Is that the first? Um, that that they'll be ready to jump right back in. They don't take a long time. It's not, they're not like retail traders that might say, okay, I pared down, like you just said, I scaled down a little bit on my Bitcoin. I did this. I'm gonna see what happens here over the next couple of days. They tend to get right back into it, when the first comes. So, that's something we'll definitely keep an eye and look at that, how that liquidity hits. I was trying to see, that's what I was wondering here. You could get an opportunity too on e-commerce today. We heard the numbers, right? Everybody had pretty good numbers. Again, if you've been waiting for a pullback on somebody like Amazon, or Costco, Costco's down at, back here, it's 50-day MA almost. That's one for me that I'd be pretty interested here. We know, again, Big Beat predicting this was gonna break 1,000. It did. Now back down at 950. If you're looking for, what are you gonna invest for the first quarter of next year? These are sort of the things that I'm kind of keeping an eye on. We're about 9 minutes away from the open here. I did have some other news I was going to go through here. Let's see. Those of us that have pets, beware. I saw that a cat in Oregon died after eating pet food, excuse me, from Northwest Naturals. Northwest Naturals. It was a frozen raw pet food, and it actually had, unfortunately, bird flu within the turkey, it said. So, and they sell in Arizona, California, Colorado, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and Wisconsin. That's sort of a weird mix of where they sell. So don't keep that in mind. There, so they are recalling it. I don't think you'd be able to find it, but just so know that that is out there. Let's take a look at what is moving in the world of stocks here. So, I mean, it's like a broken record, but Tesla, of course, extremely volatile again, lost about 1.76%, down about another 1.2% here this morning. Not really a lot of news there expected, except that they are going to release their fourth quarter deliveries next week, and they are expected to announce they delivered around 510,000 vehicles, which would be an all-time high for any quarter. Would say that, it tends to jump on those type of news, so if you see a little bit more of a pullback here on Tesla, maybe to this 435 area, I might be interested here in a short-term play on that. Do you, Zora? You make your own? We don't make our own. I do a combo. I use dry kibble for about 2/3 of Moochie's food, and then she gets pumpkin, yogurt, fish oil, green beans, blueberries, and usually an egg. So I'm an in-between person. I do use kibble as a start. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't trust those things. But Tesla, yeah, so Tesla could be at play here. All 7 of the Mag 7 down here this morning. None of them really that close to being positive. And you can see they all finished down yesterday. And this is where retail can't keep up with institutional. So that I would keep that in mind here. And what I mean when I say that is, Tesla would be this perfect example. We know it was, booming up yesterday, pre-market here, 7 o'clock yesterday, hit as high as 452. And I bet above 450, a bunch of hedge funds said, hey, thank you, Zora. This would be a good time to take some profit on my Tesla trade. And you can see retail can't catch up to that volume that you saw dump out in the afternoon. And that's what you're going to be watching for. Again, that's going to be the big thing to keep an eye on today. I probably personally will not do any trading today. I'm not in much. I'm sort of pared down. I got a little play in micro strategy that I'm going to have to wait out a little bit for the next bull run there. That's about it, really. Yeah, that's about it on my short-term trading positions right now. As you guys know, I exited Mara, IBIT, a few other of the crypto ones just before this downturn came. So I will be looking. That's the other thing I could be tempted into maybe today is I will keep an eye. You guys know I'm a big fan of Mara, right? It's 200-day MA here. It held up. Um, I like it for a play back up into this mid 20 area. So it might be one that I start to look at the option chain on and see if I can't find some value there um, on some of the Bitcoin mining stocks that have been, knocked down because of the move down on Bitcoin. So, they've taken a bigger hit than what should have happened for Bitcoin, right? You've had almost a 50% retracement here, or you have had a 50% retracement on Mara from when Bitcoin hit its all-time high to where it's at now. Um, yeah, I'm a fan. Definitely. Yeah, I'm gonna look. Hey, I will say, those of you that use TradingView, they have now added option chain into there, so you can start to do it. I haven't played around with it at all, so I can't tell you if it's good or bad yet. But I did see that they put this in. I thought this was nice. I know that I'm always hated TradingView for not having it, quite honestly. So I'll be looking at it. I will make sure to ask Mr. Bauer and Charlie Moon what they think about it if they've looked at it, see what they give it for a rating. I do like that it's got a kind of a strategy builder here where you can look and say, what did you want to do? Were you trying to do a long strangle? And it tells you what you'd sort of be looking to enter here, what would be your stuff, what's your width, your looking size. So it's got some pretty good ones. Volatility is always the one I like to keep an eye on here. Oh, there's really no volatility. What is that? I wonder if that's wrong. Let me pull up another stock here. Yeah, it looks like that. I don't know. Huh. No, that's how the volatility's going down. Okay. It's sort of because it's short volatility. Okay, I see. Okay. There we go. Okay. Cool. So that's interesting. I do like that they have that now at TradingView. We are 2 minutes from open here. Let's see what's going on with our pre-market pumpers here. If we start out looking at the S&P and NASDAQ, the only things that are actually, why are they doing that? Oh, because I had the volume reset. Okay. We only see two companies up in the S&P and NASDAQ 100 by more than 2%. Revity and Raymond James Financial. So not much to the upside there. On the negative side, you see CME Group down another 2.72% here. Quest Diagnostics down about 2. KKR down around 1.65%. I do like that hedge fund, although KKR not my favorite when it comes to those. See Supermicro down again. Let's add in the whole NASDAQ here. And let's see if any of these pumpers look interesting. You got Intrusion up 300% here. Wow. fighting right at VWAP right now too. That's an interesting one. Let's see if we can catch one that looks a little better. Oh, that's an interesting one. Okay, here you go. If you're looking for a quick little pumper to watch here this morning, you got MYSZ. You can see it made the first move up here, from 5 to 850. Retrace down a little bit here. Second pump higher here to 1074 here. Just broke back below VWAP, and VWAP holding up pretty well. You could play this on a run up if you can get above 918 here. I'd be looking to run above 918 for a run back towards 11. So definitely in play here, MYSZ. We are open. Let's take a look and see what we get here across everything as we open. Tick starts off, negative 600 to the downside here on the tick. We see advanced decline opening up down over 3,000 here. 3,100 stocks opening up to the downside here. VIX is up another 7.5% here, so VIX is climbing here. You do see volatility on tap here. It looks like through the end of the year, based upon those charts we were just looking at. And first moves on QQQs to the downside. First moves on SPY to the downside. Bitcoin barely holding that 96 candle. And again, we see its first moves to the downside here to start off with. Same thing across gold. So what is moving up? A treasury is moving up if we had a look. DXY moving back up. DXY is what's moving back up. So the dollar moving back up, and if I had to guess, rates are going to be moving back up, and they are. So rates moving back up also here this morning. So it looks like bonds, treasuries, the dollar, things moving up so far. Tick still negative at minus 400 so far. Advanced decline still sitting at minus 3173. Let's take a look and see what we do have moving here, though, this morning. Oh, do want to mention this VeriSign, which is up about 0.83%. We're finding out a little bit where Warren Buffett is spending his money. Wow, look at that. That's moved up actually tremendously here this morning. This was trading at 185 when I was looking at this earlier this morning. So VeriSign, one of the original places where you registered domains for websites. So Warren Buffett has been buying up a large amount. They filed their Form 4 filing with the SEC. They spent $28.55 million to buy 143,424 shares over 3 sessions that ended on December 24th. Man, so he's already doing pretty well. He, like they said, he was in at 195. It's already gone up $10. But I will point out this stock's got room to get back up into the 220s and above. If you look here back in December of 2023, this was a stock that traded at that 220 level. And if you go back here just to May of 2023, you can see it traded at 230. And then its all-time high here was right around this 256 in 2021. So Mr. Buffett spending some money, already looking at a nice 10% gain here, and the market is catching this. Makes sense that the market's catching up to this as I saw it. So did others. And in total, he has bought 377,736 shares of the company. And so he owns 13,193,349 shares, about 13.7% of the company. Just had a question come across my thing here asking when does the tax selling commence? Now we're in January. So I do want to point out you get two levels of that. You usually get tax harvesting this week, which is where people who maybe are looking to sell a stock that's down just because they want to write off the loss on that stock. Um, and then what we tend to see is Feb and March is when we see people tax selling to pay their taxes, right? So you do get it in two kits here, but tax harvesting is usually this week and next week before the first. People will say, take a look and say, hey, I've got a couple of dogs here, like I would have with my MSTR position. Right now, do I want to hold on through the end of the year? Or hold on to next year, or do I take a loss this year? Can I write off some of my gains versus that? Where do we end up? So it's a great question. Definitely one to keep in mind. And as I was looking at what Mr. Well, Zora, remember he's got like $1 trillion sitting on the sideline. So he might be buying all of that up to buy the company to take it over. Remember, they own Geico, they run, Berkshire Hathaway runs companies. They have that big real estate venture they do. They're in a bunch of different businesses where they are basically the owner of the business. So, yeah, yeah. So I should have said that's not him himself. That is Berkshire Hathaway. His private equity firm. And that's what he tends to do. He tends to take big positions in companies. He wants to, when he believes in a company, he makes a big position. And he usually rides it out for a while too. So that's the way to do it, I guess. He doesn't diversify as much as others. Although again, like I said, even with that being said, he only spent 2.67 billion in Berkshire was holding. Cash reserves right now are 325 billion. So that's why. Remember, Zora, that's not his money. He is investing for, the shareholders. It would be their money. But 325 billion, which is double what he had at the end of last year. So, like you said, you're going to see him spend some money, and for him spending $2 billion is like you and I. Yeah, absolutely. He does have it. Oh yeah, no, no, he is extremely wealthy. Yes, not only stock options, he owns most of the other one, not BRB. He owns Berkshire A. Berk.A. Which is this one, which trades at $686,000 a share. He is the largest, I believe, holder of that. If we look at it, let's see, it should give you that here. You know what? I don't know that it does. It doesn't give you that here. They don't give you who owns the stock. I get that. Hold on one second. I'll tell you that. Good question. That is a good question. And I find that here, I believe. Yeah. Okay, so I need to type in Berkshire dot A. Here we go. Oh, you don't really know. I lied. I thought you could tell. Doesn't list what he. Oh, it should though. Wait a second. He would be insiders. One second. I'm wrong. would be right here. Hold institutional investors. Where's insider positions? You know what? It's probably going to be easier for me to ask it here. Good question. He owns, there we go, 15%. But he owns 30% of the voting shares. That was a good one. There you go, Zora. So that was a good one. Yeah, he owns 15% of that company. Wow, not too bad. 15% of the company valued right now at right about $1 trillion. Yeah, not bad. 150 million. Billion, excuse me. You and I could do well with that, right? You'd have a hell of a van then, Zora. Let's see what else is going on here. Tick has moved positive here, so we are seeing a move to the upside. I don't know where it's coming from though, because if I look at SPY is down, now 7/10 of a percentage point and has done nothing but go to the downside. QQQ down more than a point here, and it's done nothing but move to the downside. Rut, move to the downside. And RUI to the downside. So I'm not sure where this positive tick's coming from. Nvidia down now than 2. Most of the mags getting hit here. You see Netflix, Tesla, Nvidia. I'll tell you what, Netflix starts to get interesting here at anything below 900 to me. You know what I mean? Yeah, we always got to look it up, Zora. We want to know these things. Helps us make decisions on what we do. Let's see what's going on with any of the pumpers here. Lamb & Wesson moving here to the upside. That's interesting. What's going on there? I got to look that up. Lamb & Wesson. They just had terrible earnings. Someone taking a big position in Lamb Wesson here, it looks like. Because that's a pretty big jump up in about 6 minutes. That's a pretty big buy. Huh. And again, Lamb & Wesson, the company that makes tons of, most French fries for restaurants and for people. Huge potato company. That's interesting. Well, maybe the news, Lamb Weston Holdings executives increased their stakes. So maybe some insider buying there. They bought about $316,000 worth. So some of the execs back in the company. I love to see that. I love it. Albemarle, which we know is a play on lithium. It's moving up here nicely this morning, so it's definitely catching a bid here. ALB. VeriSign, we talked about, definitely was catching a bid, although it seems to be starting to pull back here. Moderna taking a little bit of a move to the upside here. Got a pumper here. iLearning Engines. iLearning Engines. AILE just pumping up. Looks like it's going to try to make a run to $1 here. Those that have ever listened to Charlie Moon know that these stocks that have been under $1 that are in fear of getting a letter from the NASDAQ for a delisting, they have a tendency for their insiders to increase their buys here. Let's pull up the stock, AILE, and take a look and see who does own it for insiders. Again, this is AILE. Ah, well, I would avoid this. They filed for Chapter 11 on the 23rd. So be careful here. This is a dead cat bounce that they're trying to push back here. So be careful. These are fun to watch. And if you get in it early, which we did not, that would have been like at this 30-second, 30-cent mark. They're fun to watch, but this is definitely going to be. Here's one if you want to keep your eye on something to play. Look at that. Shot up to 79, now back at 64. This one will play out, but this is usually a dying dog. Doubt you can find a way to short it at this point. Size still pulling back. Not seeing. Oh, here's another pumper. Paladine, PDYN, making a little bit of a move. Okay, let's get back to the bigger picture here. Wow. Mag 7 getting drilled here today. Nvidia down 2.5%. Apple down almost a percentage point. Microsoft down 2%. Google down 1.5%. Amazon down 1.89. So here you go. Here comes the second part of that fade that Steve's been warning about, right? You got to look at it now for a retrace back down to these levels. Tick is now negative. Advanced decline has moved up though. We're only down negative 1,659 so far. So not too bad there. Gold struggling to hold 26. Bitcoin struggling to hold 95. Back down at 95. So again, seeing some sell off across the board here. Do you see Boeing holding up nicely at 180 here? So Boeing holding up nicely. AutoZone is in the positive. Bank of America in the positive. So there are some winners. Brown Forman up about 2/3 of a percentage point, although this one's been getting drilled lately. Coinbase getting hit a little bit here. Costco too. Costco down at 938. That 50-day MA would be interesting too. FedEx up here today. Yeah, I don't see much that's interesting, to be honest with you. If anything, you'd be playing a bounce back play here, but I'd be waiting for them, you know, see this bottom form a little bit better. Huh. Apple moving up a little bit here now after bottoming out. I will say a group of stocks that is moving up across the board almost of those stocks that we were looking at that were just above the 200-day MA. So your Procter and Gamble moving up, Abbott's moving up, Caterpillar pretty flat but moving up, Lowe's. So all those that are just above the 200-day MA are all holding up pretty well. The ones that didn't were ITW, which you can see still holding up above it though. Yeah, they're holding up pretty well, all of them. That's a good question. I don't know on that one. Zora, I think everybody's on vacation. Normally the guys that we usually have in here, Ron and Paul and Ryan and Aaron, they are all on vacation. Steve, everybody's on vacation today. They left me alone. They handed me the keys and said, "You stay. Everybody else is leaving." You're the only one checking in with me today, Zora. I think people are. What's the weather like out there today, Zora? You at least have some nice warm weather. I mean, even Mr. Bauer is not doing his show till the beginning of the new year. I saw him and the family were out skiing in Colorado. Thanks, Zora. I appreciate it. We're gonna be doing our Christmas here in a little bit this morning. Ella was at her oh nice, that's nice. It's Quartzsite, Arizona. I mean it's beautiful the pictures I saw. That's nice though. 70 and 50. That's perfect weather. Little fire at night, you know. That is nice. Weather here has been just rainy and lousy the last week or so. Nothing's really running out of the big stocks. Lamb and Weston still at 2.37. Occidental trying to get a little love here, 1.39. Tick is positive, back to positive here, 231. So maybe we've bottomed out here. Advanced decline. We're seeing more stocks go positive. VIX is up to 1628 here. And we do see a little bit of a bounce back by SPY now here. A little bit, it was down around 596, now back up above 597. Bitcoin is holding 95K pretty well. Gold holding that 2600 handle. Ugh. Yeah, I'm sure you're used to all that. Yeah, you're used to the exact opposite of the desert. Hey, but you're getting to try the different parts of the country there, and they're beautiful out there for sure. Well, Zora, I think that is gonna do it for us today. I am gonna jump out of here. Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, you don't want to start fires. Yeah. Okay. Well, sweatshirt weather at least. Um, we are going to start having our Christmas. The little one got back last night from her dad's, so we are doing our Santa Claus and Hanukkah stuff today. So everybody have a fantastic weekend. I will be back Monday. I believe Steve will be with me Monday, so we'll be back in full force with our full schedule on Monday. Zora, have a fantastic weekend. I'm sure I'll chat with you during the week.